just hitting the record button. I always kind of feel bad because I like make the little announcement on Instagram, and then people are like, "Oh, I want to watch live," and I'm like, "Oh, well, you can make it live after it's done." And I did that last week, and it really threw people for a loop because they thought THP was live, but it was like what we had just recorded.
Yeah,
broadcast to Facebook and their Instagram or YouTube, and then everyone was like, "They're not."
They try to get on the live chat, and
yeah, they're like, "Why are you guys going so late?" We're not.
Yeah. Like, we were done like 30 minutes ago. What are you talking about? I'm already in bed.
Yeah, for real.
But here we are, episode 177 of the Herpeticulture Podcast. I'm Justin Smith of Palmetto Coast Exotics, and
I'm Jacob Bratz with Longleaf Reptilia.
That's right. This episode is brought to you by BlackBoxCages.com. Check them out, Facebook, Instagram, BlackBoxCages.com. Fantastic stuff. You need to get it. There is talk of some Black Friday deals coming up, so stay tuned there. And then check out Snaketuary.com. Get some Venom hot sauce. Help Steve out. He's doing a lot of really good stuff in terms of educating the public, relocations, rehabilitations, all that good stuff. So check both of those out. I'm not going to waste a ton of time with the usual intro stuff. I don't really have any updates. Jake, I don't know about you.
I mean, I got new snakes today, but
you did. They were nice.
They are nice. Very exciting.
You got those Texas rats, and I was when Chris told me that's what he was getting, I was like, I don't know if Jake's gonna be like another Spurge situation. Jake's gonna be like, thanks.
Not for these. No,
they are really nice though. Like
they
are box,
really nice.
Oh, those are.
When he sent me the adults, that was the seller. Because like when I first saw them, I was like, "What the heck is that?" Then I was like, "Oh shit! I think these might be the adults to my babies." And like, yeah, I'm not nearly as into the Texas stuff, but they're still Obsoleta, which obviously Obsoleta is kind of my jam. And like, I kind of wanted a pair of Texas rats, and these fit the bill so perfectly because they're such a specific locality and such a specific look. Because he sent me the adults, and they're unlike any Texas rats I've ever seen in my freaking life. So. They definitely fit the bill, and I'm definitely super excited.
Of artwork, which is one of the reasons we even want Chris to send us stuff, because Chris sends us little drawings in different scenarios with every box, and it just makes every shipment all the better.
The last time that he sent like everyone a box in a week or whatever, and everyone was sending their pictures, I was messaging him. I'm like, dude, what do you got for sale? What's up? Buddy, I'm kind of out of everything. I'm like, I really just wanted artwork, so I'm really just about to buy a random snake.
The funniest part is that that fool was sitting at his kitchen table drawing that stuff.
Dude,
he took time to draw those. It wasn't like a quick little doodle.
No. And that last one, this one from today, dude, that was like
Lisa, baby.
Picasso, baby. Picasso. Like that was out of this world. That was on a new level. That shit's on my fridge, boy.
I would show them here, but they're too graphic.
Yeah, no, we won't show those on here. But if you're curious, message me. And I'll send it to you.
We have like a whole collection at this point.
It's great. I'm going to get them framed.
They're all in my closet. I've saved every single one of them. Like, I can't throw that away. It's too damn hilarious.
Mine are on the fridge, baby, for everyone to see. Love Chris. Oh, man.
This episode, we are joined by Mr. Skylar Williams and Mr. Mike Stefani of Mike's Monitors and Hail the Scales. So I've given, as much as I talk about my Ackies, because I'm like a freaking beardy mom with those things at this point. What better, instead of talking about husbandry and all that other stuff that you can find that it's not hard information to come across. I'm super curious in terms of the socialization and getting the quintessential sort of monitor that will just come right out to you and sort of investigate you, expecting food, like getting monitors to that point. And I figure Skylar and Mike are two excellent people to talk to about that. Skylar's got his peach throats and he's making really good headway with, and Mike's just the monitor guy.
Mike's Monitors, baby.
So, that's right.
Thank you.
So, not going to spend a whole lot of time in terms of the usual stuff. Skylar's been on the show. Mike's been on NPR.
Let's face it. If you don't know these people, you're living under a rock.
That's right.
And you need to get out. So go look them up, and we're going to skip all the other bullshit. Okay.
But we will very quickly go over which species of monitors you're sort of focused on currently. So whoever wants to go first.
Go ahead, young man.
All right, appreciate
Age
it.
before beauty.
Yeah, I'll be quick. Mike's the big man in the house. I'm just that third wheel in here. But honestly, I'll make it quick. But I would say I have a lizard background from when I was 3 years old. So whether it was a blue belly lizard, an alligator lizard, an Asian water dragon, whatever it was at the time, either whether my mom had it or I had it from catching it, I just always had this thing about reading the language of the lizard. So that's really what you got to do. But it doesn't matter what it is. So species wise, they're all kind of individual. You read the body language to each monitor. And so it's not really cookie cutter for everything. So I can't really say what I do is for everyone. But the specific of Joviensis, which I'm just strictly peach throats at this time, that's all I'm worried about. That's all my heart and mind desires. And I see these things and I don't care about any other monitor really. They're just they're the rock jam for me. So,
but why peach throats in particular? Of all the species, what is it
there's
about
a million
Joviensis
of them.
that was it?
It's crazy because it's like Mike said the first time he saw one. He was a snake guy. He's did all this stuff. He had tree monitors. As soon as you see, I feel like people see pictures of peach throats and they're just like, oh, that's a pretty monitor or whatever, or they just, that's another monitor. But when you see a healthy peach throat that's colored up and not covered in dirt or shed, it is up there with tricolored monitors and some of the best looking Dorianis. I feel like they have better colors than them sometimes. I mean, it's just their scale of beauty for me is they have almost every color of the rainbow, from their reds and their peach colors in their throat all the way to greens and yellows and their arms and back. And then they got blue arms and tail. Like, you're getting every color with that lizard. So you're getting every color. It's got a crazy intricate pattern. It's got, like Mike Kosicki says it the best, it has the most monitor look out of monitors. I feel like it just has that true raptor look to it, at least for me personally. And like, they're so tacked on. Like, people say lace monitors are really tacked on and they're just like really in tune to every movement and everything. I feel like these peach throats are right there with them, if not even a step above. Because I swear there's times where you can be like, oh yeah, this thing's great, he's feeling me, everything's fine. Drop of a second, he could be ready to bite you, ready to tail whip you because of something off in the distance may have spooked him or something. They are so in tune and on edge with everything in their surroundings, 360 degrees. I mean, I put them up there with some of the highest intelligent animals in this world. And that's just because I've spent the last 3 years with them day in and day out, 24/7. And some of the stuff they do that I still see to this day blows my mind. Like, even these little hatchies that I just got, these new hatchies that I just got, they're blowing my mind. That's why I'm sure y'all are like tripping out all the videos I sent you, but they are seriously blowing my mind with their intelligence. Like, the day in, day out connection of just the stupid little things, it registers in their brain and they associate it with, okay, not gonna die, but we'll be wary of this person, whatever. But you slowly break that wall down and you got the thing that I got with my 4-foot monitor. I can go in there and pick him up, but he's still, like I said, say if something spooks him off in the distance, he's going to be on edge. He's going to be like, yo, what's going on? He's still aware of, I'm the good guy, but he's going to know, like that. Like I said, it's so hard to explain in words. It's really just reading the body language. That's why I tried to start with that. Like, every lizard, every monitor, you got to learn their body language. That's why when I told you guys, I talk to these lizards, they talk to me, and it's like, I'm not speaking to them, but like literally just reading their body language, every movement, how they react to everything I do is like, you just got to, all right, whatever they're doing when I do this, take that in, turn it into a positive and make it to where you're making every situation of either you going in and cleaning or changing the water or giving food a positive, not a scare tactic or them being worried or running or feeling that they're cornered or in fear. Sorry, I know I'm rambling, but I could literally just go on about this forever.
And you know what? When you do produce your peach throats, the captive born babies are going to be nothing like what you have now.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree with you 100%. There's something very special about Joviensis, especially the normal, the Peak River ones. They're the common ones. I mean, there's Maruki and stuff like that, but all to a different degree of color and stuff. But the typical ones you find wild caught or farm bred or imported, they're imported. So, when you hatch out your first baby, man, oh man, I don't know if you've seen them ones I hatched on my Instagram.
Oh yeah.
Them things there ain't a better looking animal on this planet than a baby peach throat.
Agreed. Yeah, I figured, I obviously on your website, and I've been on your website like 50 times just looking at all the cool stuff and hoping that you'd have an update on peach throat eggs cooking. But
I got a big update coming. The whole thing though.
Okay, I'll be looking out for it. But yeah, I remember when you said when you hatched those peach throats and they were just the most colorful, beautiful things, and they were just crawling all over you, and I'm just like, I got these imports barely doing anything, just crawling on me a little bit and tolerating me, and I'm over here freaking got a tear in my eye and stuff.
Well,
just
as a guy who's worked pretty extensively with peach throats, I could say you're doing real good with them.
Oh, I appreciate that. I mean, that's all I focus with, so I don't have any of my attention going anywhere else but them. And when you were just mentioning the locality-ish type of what you were saying, I have noticed now that I have a couple, I obviously I don't know the people that imported them or who caught them or who brought them in, so I can't definitely say. But from people I have talked with similar animals to ones I have, I want to 99% sure say I for sure have like one sarong locality, and it's completely different than the other ones that I have. And I have one that I want to say it's what you were saying, the
Maruk.
I want to say it's a Maruki, which is like that more common one, which is it's banded back, but it's got like the really fine dissipated pattern. But these three other ones I have the most vibrant yellows and colors. Their patterns are very different than the other ones. So I have no way of finding out, but I really want to find. The dream is to go over there so I can see this stuff with my own two eyes and talk to the people over there. Because that's the only way I'm going to get to the bottom of all this. But
have you gone on iNaturalist at all and looked around at?
A little bit. I really need to spend more time doing that, to be honest with you, because that would probably answer a lot of questions I have.
Well, you know the import game too, man. They're telling you a general location. They're not, they're not giving you specific locale information for obvious reasons. I mean, that's how they make their money. But those Maruks that I had were it pretty much just looked like a normal peach throat, but where the black on the shoulders met the blushing of peach on the throat was purple patches. Fucking gorgeous.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, that animal I had was something else, but I never got to breed her.
See, the 1-year-old, or he's coming up on 1-year-old male. He has to be a Maruki then, because that's his exact pattern. It's got that purplish kind of stuff coming up in the back of the neck, and he's just
right from the shoulder up into it goes from the black shoulder, it goes purple, and it blushes up into the peach of the throat. Just it's a stunning animal, And also Joviensis, they have that almost like the spinulosus. They have that doughy, and when I mean dough, I don't mean like pizza dough, like a dough, They have that real fucking intelligent look in their eye, and I've kept so many different monitors, but when a peach throat looks at you, man, that fucker's studying your whiskers, your face. Peach throats they're the shit, man, for sure.
So, I don't know if you guys have any experience with like exotic birds, like parrots or anything.
A little bit.
Their
Yep.
eyes are like constantly dilating and stuff when they're like
Adjusting,
investigating stuff or something's going on. I'm sure Mike can attest to this. You
Yep.
stare at Peach though in the eye, you'll see the exact same thing. And like he's saying, that thing he's staring into your soul. Like my dude his face will be 4 inches away from me, and that tongue's just hitting me, and his pupils are going big and small, and it's just like, he's just examining everything and smell and taste, but the familiarization is just awesome with me because no matter what, he at least knows I'm good, guys. So
yeah, the past couple of days that I've been handling the Ackies and stuff too, it's like every time I'm like, these are freaking birds, like without a doubt. Like the blinking is exactly like what you see in like chickens and other birds. The head movements, that's like, I'm like, these things are freaking birds. It's just
of all the monitor species I've kept and bred, I've never seen any of them do like what anoles do. Like, of course, they don't have dewlaps, but they communicate through head bobs and push-ups. And the only monitor of the probably 90% of all species I've kept at one point, peach throats are the only ones that'll do a head bob and a head shake, communicating with other animals. I mean, they do a lot of head shaking with humans as far as when you're feeding them and they're full of food. They literally like shake their head like, no, I'm done. And as crazy as it sounds, I'm sure they're not saying no, but that's what they do. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of the common, like, the head shake. It may not be a no, but it's like that's the
get that out of my face.
That's the animal instinct of like anything that can communicate in that way. That's the no, I don't want that. Like
very well could be.
Yeah, get that out of my face, because birds will do the same thing. If they don't want something, they'll bash their heads into it, just like be like, no, I'm good, So that's fucking incredible, man. Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So Mike, what monitors are you working with like right now? Obviously you said you've kept, 90% of the monitors out there, but like what is your main focus right now, and what are you really like getting into, and what
I have currently, and these are all projects, like long-term projects. So I have my coming eye, of course, because I just love them. In my opinion, the contrast between yellow and black is just they're beautiful. So I got the coming eye, a Philippines golden water monitor. I have sulfur water monitors from Java. It's something new to me, these giant water monitors, because coming I only get like 5 foot, and these suckers here are they're gonna be giants, and I got a couple right now that are over 6 foot and probably up in maybe 8 pound. I mean, they're big animals, and they get much bigger, so they're gonna be huge. And I have my Similis, which is the only Audatrias that I currently keep, and that's my favorite monitor. I love them. They got big attitudes. They're this little tiny black and white monitor.
Yeah, they're shaped really weird in comparison to other species. Like their head structure is just odd. Like their neck is weird. It just the whole thing.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing about Similis that I like so much. I like the black and white color combo. That's always big with a guy like me. But when they puff, like you could get them to come on your arms and you could get them tolerant of your presence, but they will always, when you first approach them, I don't care how, and I don't like using the word tame, so I'll say tolerant. They tolerate you. Yeah. So, because they can all do this. I mean, they just tolerate you. I mean, they could fuck you up. All of these animals. Yeah. They're basically so smart that if you don't screw with them, they will tolerate you and deal with you just like you deal with them. So they do this thing where they puff their throat out and their head becomes like a diamond. And just the black and white tooth marks on their top and bottom jaw with that diamond shape. I love them, man. And they're just these little tiny bulldog lizards. I love them. I've had no success breeding them, in all these years I've been working with monitors. I had a large group way back in the day, And I currently have 3. 2, I believe, are a male, and this new one that I just picked up, I'm hoping it's a female. But yeah, when we get to talking about, tolerating these animals, socializing these animals, we'll get to them too. But and then the last species that I am currently keeping is the wild-caught Varanids togienus from the Togian Islands. They're not the Sulawesi mainland form, which are like a dark tea colored with white. These ones that I have they're fucking amazing. They're jet black, and the only visible pattern you can see them when they're just sitting out is they have white rings around the end of their snout. So a solid black lizard with white rings around its snout. They're gorgeous. But on their throat and their chest, they have white zebra striping that goes, and they're just gorgeous, gorgeous animals. They're on my Instagram too.
I just saw your Instagram video of that earlier today.
Yeah, I love them things, man. And they've never been bred in captivity, so I'm hoping. I believe I have 1.2, so I'm hoping that I could get that job done because, man, these are beautiful lizards, and everybody loves the black dragons.
Yeah.
You're talking about a 7-foot animal, get 40 pounds more, maybe. They're huge. That's not a lizard for everybody, but everybody loves them. So I'm hoping that I could get these Togians going, and now you're going to have like a Merton size black dragon, so with probably a better pattern on their throat and chest, and with the white rings around their nose. It's just a little different, and they only get about 4 foot, so they're very manageable.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Have you ever kept stores?
That's one species I have not kept.
That's always been a species I've been interested in.
Yeah, they're tough, man, because they're super unlike most Audatrias that are very communal.
Mm-hmm.
Storai are they're pretty solitary unless they're breeding.
I don't know. It's
I'm
the
sure
small
that could-
stuff. Like the little stuff is always what's interested me the most. There's something about it was the same with dart frogs. Like I loved Ranotomea. Like it's the tiny stuff that always interests me. I don't know what it is. I'm big man. I like little reptiles.
Yeah. I'm like that with
Big dog.
geckos. Like all those little micro geckos, the reef geckos, the yellowheads. Man, I love that shit. But I'm like a gorilla, man. I don't do well with small things.
Can't even grab.
You feel like you're gonna accidentally crush them.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
So I guess this is sort of more aimed at Mike, but over time, how have you noticed the socialization process vary from species to species? Surely there's some species I'm sure that are much harder to sort of acclimate than others, be they captive bred or imported.
Yeah, well, you know what? Captive bred, it's a whole different animal. Number one, they don't know the vastness of an open space. They do know things coming at them from above are bad. But for the most part, all of that, the wild, when they're hatched out, like they have never experienced.
It's a clean slate.
Yeah, it's a clean slate as far as captivity goes. So generally what people want to do with most monitors is they want to get them. I don't care if it's captive born or imported wild caught stuff, but they want to put them in these big grandiose enclosures. And I'm the same way, but man, you're fighting a hard battle when you do it that way. If you set them up like wild caughts are a little different than captive born. So for wild caught animals, and I'm sure you've seen this, Skylar, that they're afraid of everything when they first come in. So to put them, here's what people do. They put them in, beautiful naturalistic setups. And that's great if you play that game, but people don't. What happens is they put them in these beautiful setups with a lot of hiding and plants and everything and, a big water dish. And what happens is these are wild caught animals, man. They're afraid of everything. When they hear your door open up, they scramble, man. They go to take cover. So what happens is people they want to check on their animal. So they move this log, they move the water dish, they move this plant, and then they see their monitor like, holy shit, Godzilla, you just tore apart Tokyo, right?
Yeah.
So
Right.
so they think of you as bad monkey. Well, you don't want to be thought of as bad monkey. You want to be thought of as good monkey, feed monkey, clean monkey, quiet monkey, not bad monkey.
Yeah.
So what I always suggest to people, and it's a little different with wild caught imported animals, like my Togians. I can't use my normal captive born acclimation system with these guys because they do require some a different type of security, a security that they feel is deep cover. However, while the cages look great and they feel totally deep cover, I have cork tubes with 1-inch access holes all in them. They feel nice and secure in there, but I don't have to pull it off the wall to look in there and see if he's in there. You know what I mean? I could look in any one of those little portholes and see his foot, his head, his tail, and I know where he's at, and I can check on his condition this way, so I don't have to disturb him. I don't have to scare him. So if you set them up like this and you got like wild caught stuff, you got to really, the time is all theirs. It's you lose as far as time goes because we want everything now. I mean, look at McDonald's, all this bullshit. But with wild caught animals, it's definitely a process of them tolerating you and you tolerating them and their insecurities. So by doing that and then tongue feeding them through these portholes that you put in your cork tubes and your hide spots, that really makes them comfortable. They'll start feeding in their tube from the tongue. And then if you give them, like for example, my Togianus, very nervous wild caught animals. Now I've had them since Tinley, so I don't know, was it about a month or so? I've already gotten them coming out and tongue feeding for me. And then from there, what happens with monitors, when they feed, they want to go in the sun. They want to metabolize their food. They want to get in that heat. So what I do is I go in there. First, I'll walk into the room real softly. If they're out, I'll sit down. If they bolt, they bolt. I just sit there and I wait for them to chill out a little bit. Then I'll get my food and I'll go to wherever they're at in their little cork tubes or whatever. And I'll just give them a half a chick. Because they like to smell it. A chick is great for them, but when they smell the innards and the guts, it really gets these wild caughts going. So before you know it, they're okay taking food from me. Now, as soon as they get done eating, they want to go and bask. So what I do is I feed them up good, and then I remove myself to the back of the room, and I just sit on the chair. Excuse me. They'll come out and they'll be looking at me. They'll be looking at the basking spot, deciding, and at this point, you don't move. I mean, and I'm not even joking when I say this, even your eyes, because that's what they're looking at. They're looking at your freaking eyes. They're studying your eyes. And believe me, if you think you're going to do something stupid or make a move, or just like I just coughed, man, you got to subdue all of that. And like, you can move your eyes, but if for some reason, like when you're going to get up, they read your, before you even get up, you can see them getting ready to take off. It's like, wait a minute, what did I do? And then I realized, well, wait a minute, man, I was focused straight in on that animal. And when I did that, he became more cautious. So you got to try to eliminate all that, the eye contact, like Skylar was saying. Even when you're in Florida and you want to catch an anole, you can get so close to that anole, and if you're looking at him, he knows exactly how far you are, and he takes off. Now, if you use your peripheral vision and don't face your head at him, and you're not looking directly at him, man, you could almost walk up and pull him off the branch.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're studying your eyes. So, with knowing that. Like I said, with the wild caught animals, you just let them. It's a long process. It takes a long time. And, I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I've made a lot of mistakes. So a lot of things that I do now are a little faster than like what happens with most people. Just because, like Skylar said, you know how to read your animals, and if you don't, you better learn that with monitors, especially if you're dealing with wild caughts and stuff. So that's how I deal with wild caught animals. And generally, the worst thing you could do, you should set up like I just said, because the worst thing you do is you get nervous. You haven't seen your lizard in 3 days. So before you know it, you move the water dish and you're rustling everything around and everything's completely different. And yeah, they look at you like, wow, man, I guess this guy could probably get me no matter where I'm at. So,
Yeah.
That's a bad instance. And if you do have a bad instance like that, you just back up, and the next time you don't have you do very short sessions with them, and of course you try not to spook them or anything, but always on a good note.
Yeah, and that was something I made a point of with the Ackies when I first got them set up, because I knew that they would find, their little escape routes and their paths and stuff like that. And if I had gone in and rearranged all that, then all of a sudden they would, that would freak them out even more, because now the spot that they usually run to isn't there anymore.
Absolutely. And you just fucked them up. I mean, it's just a setback. You could come back from it, but you got to learn, like, Skylar, and you got to learn to read your animals. And, you'll know if you're doing something wrong, and they hide from you when you come into the room. So what this whole podcast about here tonight is, I'm hoping, and I know Skylar and the rest of you guys, you're hoping that we could put out some information that'll help people socialize their animals and have a good experience with Varanids, because they're next level animals, like, super highly intelligent. Their brains are never turned off. Like I was telling you before, I'm from a snake background, and when a snake is full of his food and he finds a nice warm spot to digest, they basically go there, even though they don't have eyelids. They're not there. They're turned off. If they hear something bump the tank, they may put a tongue flick out. If they see some light change go in front of their light bulb, they still don't even really register that. Where a monitor, when you open, like, all my stuff is in the basement. Every one of my monitors knows when I open the door at the top of the stairs to go down into the basement. They know that. Right. That's how smart they are.
They feel it. They hear it.
Yep. And you know what? Here's another thing, too, to take into consideration. People who, like, I use 12 on, 12 off light cycle. At night, when my lights are off, that's it. If I got to go down there and check on a nesting female or something, that's one thing. But at night, when the lights go off, they don't come back on. For people to see, come in to look at my animals. No, if you're not here before 7 o'clock, you're out,
Right.
Hi, guys.
Bring your night vision goggles.
Yeah. So, like I was saying, people who leave their lights on 24/7. Hi, Dom. What happens is, not so much with captive born, but with wild caught animals, what happens is they're not dumb. You inadvertently will condition them to sleep at night, or no, to be out at night and to sleep during the day, because your dog is running around, your dishwasher's going, and they just bunker down. Now, nighttime, everything gets quiet. They come out and they do all their things, and that's not good. That's not a good thing to do.
I never even thought about that.
Your animals basically train you like that, so you don't want to do that.
I get 8 hours of uninterrupted just roaming and hanging out.
Yep, nothing to worry about. And then when you do come down and you want to observe them and see them, they're all bunkered in. They're all hidden, so it's not good.
So have you changed your day-to-day life process based around your monitors? Like, do you try to keep things more quiet during the day so they're more willing to come out and be more active during the day?
Nope, absolutely not. And I think of them like almost like dogs. Like, you we're the dominant species, and I don't know if it sounds arrogant or whatever, but we're the dominant species. We got to live our lives, and in time, they learn to live like this too. And then, like I said, you become socialized with your lizards, and they're socialized with you, and everything is good in the end, you know. So yeah, you should never give the dog what he wants. You should never give the lizard what they want. You should have them deal with your situation, and that's good for them and everything. So
Gotcha.
Well, that's kind of the sort of the issue is like everything I've sort of watched and read in terms of socializing Varanids was, yeah, you get them to associate you with food. But the problem with that is if you're trying to do that, then you end up feeding them and you have extremely obese lizards.
See, I have something to add to that. When you
send
me a note on that, I can add to that. So I guess I really can't say for every species of Varanid, but I have noticed with the Joviensis, I mean, a lot of what I'm going to be referring to tonight is going to be all based around Joviensis, but I got a lot of positive reaction, which one of the videos I sent you all the other night in the group chat, I don't know if you noticed, but I was using the spray bottle as kind of like a neutralizer, like to realize like, it's kind of like, hey,
I've done that with snakes.
Yeah, so it's like as soon as the monitors get misted, they go into this state of like, oh my God, okay, you're misting me, I'm drinking, everything's good. You know, they kind of like get out of that panic mode, I've noticed, at least with the Joviensis. So I kind of correlated that to let's use that as like a connection time rather than only using the food, because I'm only feeding like every couple of days or every other day rather than every day, because I'm not trying to get into an obesity issue like you're saying. And I like to use every feeding opportunity as an opportunity to engage. So the misting has been that perfect kind of bridge in between that gap. And it's like, anytime I come in to mist, I'll either try to approach with my hand first, and it literally sounds stupid, but I do it to my big monitor. I'm sure you guys have seen it in my videos, but I'll approach with like my thumb tucked into my fist, and I'll approach with my fist first, and they'll tongue taste my hand, realize it's not food, it's my hand, you know, it's the monkey. Then at that point, I'll either try to glide under them with my hand or go underneath them. If they go into a panic mode or whatever, that's when I go straight to the mister, get the mister out, give them like 2 seconds of mist, not like heavy, just boom, let them realize they're getting misted. Okay, they like stop freaking out for a second, then I'll try it again. And as I'm going in with my hand, then I'll engage the mister again. Right as I'm about to like approach them, I'll hit the mister again. So it's like they're getting neutralized by two things, me approaching them and then them realizing they're getting misted. So it's like that almost over exertion of those two things happening at 1 second, you can almost capitalize. And the next thing you know, this monitor's on your hand and then you're misting it. And then I'll stop at that point, give it a second to realize, okay, now it's on me, or now I'm engaging with it. And usually from there, I can either go forward with hand-to-hand movement or letting it crawl on me, or then sitting there misting it while I'm engaging with it to make the engagement last longer. But I've noticed the misting has definitely worked, and not like just sitting there drenching it the whole time, just periodically dot, 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 to get its brain tacked out of that. Anytime it's about to go to that fight or flight, hit them with the mist to re-engage them into calm. And that has honestly been working a lot with the younger ones. And another thing I've noticed is getting your monitor out of its even if it's in its cage, if you can like lure it out, or even if it's in that freaked out, like if you can lure it out with food, I would lure it out of its enclosure if you have an area where you can work with it. Because when they're out of their enclosure, I've almost noticed that they don't have that protective, oh my God, I can run right here to the left and I can hide, or, you know, like they almost feel
it's more of a curiosity thing.
Exactly. Yeah. They're in sensory overload, and they're just taking in, you know, think about you being in jail. You know, you're in jail and they let you go to the commissary. Boy, man, it's got to be like Christmas, you know? So same thing.
They get out. Do you think in that scenario, like, you know, if you coax them out with food and they come out or whatever, and it's kind of that sensory overload, do you think there's any chance that, like, in that scenario, obviously everything's wide open And in that scenario, in the wild, if you're in the wide open, you're vulnerable. Do you think in any scenario that, like, when that happens, it's almost like as long as you don't force them into that situation, that maybe you might be kind of a safety net for them? Like, okay, I can
The one
trust,
thing that's
I can,
familiar.
right, I can trust this person in this very vulnerable state. Nothing's happening to me, but I'm on this guy's shoulder or on their hand. He's not making me do this, but I'm out here now because I wanted food, but like I'm safe now because
put
I'm
it this
with
way.
my monkey, you know?
When
Like,
you get wild caught, especially, we'll just stick with the wild caught, like the peach throats or the togies, whatever. When you get them to that point, and that's a good point that you bring up, bro. When they get to that point where you're their security, because that's what it's all about for these animals. They just
right.
want to be secure. So when you're their security in a situation like this, you're doing good. You're well ahead of the curve, and they still may freak out, but you've already done some major socializing if they look to you as a comfort.
A safety net type of deal.
Yeah, it's not always 100%, a positive. They come out and it's just, it's all perfect. There is that they come out sensory overload and they kind of freak out. But at that point, it's like, don't go grab that thing. Don't go wrangle it up. At that point, I try to make either my arm, my leg, my whole body some sort of blocker to where they're now either running up my arm, running up my leg. Like Mike said, it takes more patience and time than you will ever get back to these things just to get out. You're going to give a mile to get an inch, no matter what. But
and another thing that's important to bring up at this point is, when you do make these big strides, you can fall back.
But absolutely.
If you do fall back, you just stay the course, and you're going to make it further and further until the one day, like I've had wild caught peach throats that literally were like cats. I mean, they would crawl all over me. They wouldn't run from me. It took, years, but you could get there with wild caught animals. Everybody thinks, when they blow and they hiss at you or tail whip, come on, man. If that bothers you, they got day geckos that crawl right up on your hands and they won't bite you and shit.
Get out of the sport if you're worried about a tail whip and a puff up, because
exactly
that's just them telling you watch your ass, basically.
Yep.
Right. And it sounds like the biggest thing is not like forcing them into that situation. Don't go in and grab them and stick them on your chest. Be like, this is where you're going to be now.
That's why I said everything is on their time. You do not control the time during this process.
Nope. I feel like if you try to control the time, then it's just going to backpedal completely. Like if you try and force them into those situations, it's not going to be good. You want to let them believe that you are the safety net, not make them think you are, because that's just going to bring you absolutely back,
Yeah.
They're already on 10, no matter what, 24/7.
Right.
So their interest level and their, intrigueness for everything is already there. So it's not like you need them. You don't do much for them to get reaction out of them. They're all reaction. So it's literally, what can I do? It's basically, you're going to make a lot of steps back before you make steps forward, because you're going to have to first learn how your animal reacts to everything you're doing. And you're going to have to learn how to make what you're doing not seem or not make your animal react in a negative way. So as soon as you can start learning what you got to do to make your animal react in a neutral or positive way, you learn that, make that a routine. And basically from there, they learn to make, like I said, 5 days out of 10 is probably when I have positive interactions with my monitor. But 10 days out of 10, I'm putting in the same amount of work and the same amount of activities. Like Mike's saying, I might get 10 steps ahead, and then on that 10th day, I get knocked back down 4 steps. But guess what? I'm going back in there tomorrow with a positive attitude and making sure my animal knows I'm in a positive mindset, because those jokers read vibes and read energy better than
Absolutely. That's another thing I was going to say. If you're ever, in a fight with your girlfriend, or you need to, just like a dog, the energy you put forth is the energy you're going to get back from these animals. And it's crazy. But if you ever go down in your animal room and you're working with monitors and you just had a fight with your wife or one of your kids was sassing you, whatever, man, that animal knows the tension in your aura, whatever you call it, your electricity, whatever you want to call it. They know, man. They're not fucking dumb animals. I mean, you know, and when I say they're not dumb animals, they read shit like that. They read your energy. They read, like I talked about, I know we don't want to get in on husbandry, but just to show you an example of how their intelligence and their knowing how deep it is. Like when you're in your basement, and my basement's 82 to 84 degrees, that's what they feel. But I can tell you something right now. They know the walls are 68 degrees, even if they're in a cage. They know, they read all these little cues, noises, smells, temperatures. They read every bit of it. So they're highly intelligent, man. And when you use that, you know, people think they're instinctive driven for sure, but they're also intelligent. So
right.
If you use their intelligence against them, so to speak, you could build a great relationship with these animals, and they trust you. And once you get that trust going, you're done. You got to always work on it, and you don't want to go down with a bad energy, like I said, because they'll pick up on that, and you'll have a bad day with them. So you're better off just clear your mind, do a little of them fucking ohms, whatever you got to do, and then go down there and be calm and assertive and straightforward with them, and it works.
I'm sure there's also a confidence that needs to go into it. You know, if like you said, they pick up on energies and stuff. If you're nervous interacting with these animals, you probably shouldn't have them, because that's not going to go a long way. If you're scared of that animal, if you're tense around it all the time, you need to have a calmness of you. You need to have that nerve of like, and confidence, not necessarily like you can have your nervousness dealing with a new animal, whatever, but like I feel like you have to have, exactly. You have to have a confidence in yourself.
You roll in there with purpose instead of hesitating and stuff. Like snakes somehow pick up on that. I don't know how it is.
Absolutely,
100%.
If you go, whatever, you go to your, I don't know if you guys got kids or whatever, but if you go to their school or their football practice, and the coach is not putting off, the presence of being a leader and someone who's not scared and someone who's bold. Yeah, you feel that. You're confident with that. So you want your animals to be confident in you. So you have to show them confidence, because they pick up on all this shit.
Right. Because if you're not confident in your animals, you're not confident in yourself with your animals are not going to be confident with you.
Absolutely. You're just another scary thing. Yep.
Yeah. And it's one of those things I feel like a lot of people don't really like think about too much, like if you're shaking, you're tense, you're everything, your animals pick up on that, especially monitors. Monitors are on like a whole different level with intelligence of that type of thing. Like you said, with dogs, dogs can tell if you're scared of them. And I feel like monitors would be the same way. If you're nervous around your monitor, you're scared around your monitor, they're gonna pick up on that, and they're gonna be just as tense and just as scared as you. You have to have that confidence, that calmness of like, okay, this animal is fine. I'm in tune with this animal, and you need to act like that. You need to present that with your aura, or else they're gonna retaliate. Like you can't be like that. You have to be calm, confident, and then come in with a calm hand and a confident hand, to really be able to interact with them.
Dude, so I got a perfect example for that. It's like, obviously I play with Blaze, my big male peach throat, like he's my puppy dog friend.
We all know Blaze. Yeah.
When I first got him, like in the first 6 months of having him, whatever, I had taken him to the vet for a checkup or whatever. And on the way there, he was in the back seat in like a tub, but we didn't want to have him tub just because he's Blaze and he's so cool. So we like had his head hanging out, and I forget what happened, but he was like trying to crawl out or whatever. And at some point my wife was just like tried to mush his head back in just because she's whatever with him. Well, he latched onto her finger. So thank God he didn't crash or anything, but he just like bit her and like held on to her like, bro, why are you trying to mush me in the face?
Right.
So now he's like eternally terrified of him. But he'll be like, I obviously have a reptile room separate from my house, so we'll be in here chilling. He's usually out while I'm doing my chores or whatever. But sometimes she'll just walk in here not realizing that he's out, and she'll be talking to me. And next thing you know, Blaze is like about to crawl across her feet. And she just goes into like, oh my God. I'm like, do not do that. Don't jump. Don't freak out. Don't panic.
Don't panic. Yeah.
He's gonna bite you when you do that. And like just the other day, I was in here and that happened. She walked in and I'm like, watch your feet, watch your feet. And she's like, get him. Dude, homeboy looked at her like, I'm about to bite the F at you right now. So
yeah,
just literally,
but you're back for more.
He knows my vibe. I just scoop him up like a little puppy. I'm like, you're good. Like, it's all good. But the instant second of her freaking out, he was ready to like, okay, his tail was curled up. He was about to tail whap her. And he was like, okay, if I have to bite, I will bite. But as soon as he felt my confident hands and he felt my touch grab him, it's not like he whipped around and bit me or nothing. He literally just got picked up. I set him down. Situation.
And I'm sure in those situations, it's almost a double whammy, because if she comes in and freaks out, you're going to kind of be like, don't do that. And then he's going to be like, why is King Monkey acting like that? You know, then he's automatically on edge of like, you know, if my safety net is starting to freak out, then, and this other one is freaking out, then like, this is all bad, you know?
Yep.
Like,
give me a hiding spot.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotta remember to stay calm as well as the thing.
Oh yeah, and that's the biggest thing, you know. Like I feel like even talking soft, you know. I mean, like, you know, if your girlfriend comes in, or fiance, wife, whatever, like if she's freaking out, you have to be like, hey, it's cool, like just
absolutely.
Let me get him, you know, because like I feel like even voice inflections.
Absolutely,
you know, because it's all vibrations, and you know they hear that. You know, it's all.
That's funny you say that, because man, dude, you're calming. You're like, you should be a self-help guru or something, man. You're very calming. But I don't know how long we're gonna go here, and I know Justin's got some Ackies. So are they young Ackies?
Yeah, I got them, and they were, I want to say, only a couple weeks old. And they're
okay.
Like I said, they're a year, probably about a year and a half old at this point.
Okay, well, yeah, they're getting there. But at any rate, so like for Audatrias, Kimberly Rocks, King Gorhams, Ackies, any of the smaller dwarf monitors, simple setup to start them off in. Basically, any of those types of Audatrias I just mentioned, I'll put them in. I think it's like 8 by 8 by maybe 10, a little front opening Exoterra. What I do is I put a 50-watt light bulb over the top, seal the top with cellophane or plastic, something like that. Then I put one cork bark, a cork bark slab or bark slab, and then I'll take a plastic plant, real wiry plastic plant, and I'll just drape it over the front of the cork or the bark. And now that does a couple of things. These animals, it don't take them much to feel secure. So this slab like this with it's a vertical thermocline. So you know, if they want to get warmer, they'll come towards the top of the cork bark. If they want to, you know, they choose their temperatures. But the plant over the top allows them to bask while still feeling concealed. So they feel safe, they're secure, and they're all happy. Now, you can literally, of course, in the beginning, you don't want to have that eye contact. So open the doors and take pinky parts, leg, you know, rib, the whole thing, but you want them small pieces. Get some tweezers and put it right through the plant where they're basking, and they'll start eating. Keep doing that daily, slowly but surely. They'll look for you to be opening the door to feed them. And I know there's a counter to this too, so let's not get ahead of ourselves here. So food is the motivator.
Yeah.
To liking you. But that all, you change that all up once you've bridged this gap. So they like you. You're the food monkey. You're giving them food. You're giving them food. Now from there, you don't pass the food into that little plant. And it's a real spittly plant. You can look on my Instagram and my YouTube to see all these setups. If not, just hit me up and I'll send you pictures. Usually when I sell animals, I suggest all these setups I'm going to talk about to the people who buy my stuff. And the people who listen to me generally have they'll contact me in 3 months with their lizard on their arm and everything's good. I've developed this over years. So I'm not just blowing smoke. This shit works. So when you get your Ackies like that, now you don't you take your tweezer and you don't put it into the plant. You put your hand in the plant and you hold the food back here a little more. Now they got to walk on your hand to eat the food. Next thing you know, a couple days, you're feeding them. They're coming on your hand. Now you'll get to the point where you open the door and they're going to poke their head out of that plant. They're going to be like, oh, food monkey's here. Nope, food monkey don't have food for you today. Just put your hand on there. And they're so smart, they figure you've trained them to where they come out. Then you give them the food. But now they're going to start coming out. You're not going to give them the food. You'll pull your hand out of the cage a little bit. You'll look at them. You'll put your hand back in there. They'll go back into the plant. And you're building up these positive interactions with them. And once you get them to the point where they'll come on your hand looking for food that you don't have, man, game over, dude. They love you. They love you at that point. So, but the key to that, to getting those Audatrias, Kimberly Rocks, any of them to become tolerant of you, is food in the beginning and a very, very simple setup. You don't want to give them hides here and this and that. Once they come out onto your hand looking for food and you don't give them food and they go back in and they come back out without food, man, you could put them in you could put your Ackies in a 10-foot room. And when you walk in the room, they're going to come to you. So once you get them to that point, that's why I always tell people in the beginning, other than for wild caught animals, you want a super simple setup. And that's what the Audatrias, that's what I found worked well with them. The one piece where they can hide behind it, or, they could bask from behind it. They could bask in the front, the little spittly plant, and I mean really spittly. It's like fake Spanish moss, so it's real thin, and they bask there and they get comfort there. They feel secure because of the plant, and so that's a simple setup for Audatrias. We've already kind of went over how I do wild caught imported animals, and again, it happens pretty quick, but generally for the wild caughts, it's going to take some time, as Skylar there can attest to. But look at him. You get it done. It takes some time. You got to be patient, calm, and stay the course with them. So now, I don't know how long we're going to be on here, so I kind of wanted to cover.
We usually go 2 hours.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
So, hey, got any questions on that Audatria setup?
So, not necessarily a question on the setup per se, but I will sort of skip ahead to, like we mentioned earlier, sort of the forced interaction part of it. For a while, I was doing the tong feeding, and I'd hold my hand out, and they'd have to come out onto my hand to get the food. And that they picked up on that really quick. Like they learned that those tongs meant there was something on the end of it for them. But it was always like okay, I'll come out. I don't really want to, but I will grab it and then run back. And so as of the last couple days, I'll go in the mornings before I leave for work, before I take the dog for a walk. I know which rock they like to hang out under. It's never both of them at the same time. It's the male or the female, one of the two. And while they're cold, I'll grab them and I'll hold them for a minute. Usually they sort of freeze up for a second, and then once they realize what's going on, because now they're awake, that's when they kind of do their little spazzy like jumping thing. But the last 2 days, like especially with the male, after 5 minutes or so of that, he definitely kind of chills out some, and he's not nearly as freaked out. The female, she's clearly a little more high strung, but it sounds like that's kind of the typical thing with Ackies for the most part.
Female monitors in general.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, is there anything to be said for something like that, or is it?
Yeah, I definitely. I mean, I see people do that force handling stuff a lot. I don't like it because now you're saying that your female, see, now you got an opinion on a female monitor. I have monitors, females, males, they'll all come right out to me. It doesn't really matter. And it's all because of the way I raised them like that. So I don't really see a difference between males and females as far as behavior on handling. And one of you guys had said you were a little worried about using food because you don't want a fat monitor.
Right.
Okay. Here's the thing with monitors. Monitors like it hot, super fucking hot. If you get a baby Ackie and you keep them in the right conditions, if you fed them a full pinky in parts every day, I guarantee you feed them those pinkies in the morning and you're running them hot, you can go back there later in the afternoon and throw pinhead crickets in there and they'll chase the crickets and eat them all too. So they turn. Where you guys going? Oh, all right. Yeah, chocolate shake, small. So I'm sorry, guys.
You're good.
So where was I going? Okay, so what happens with their metabolism? These animals, Ackies, I don't care if they're coming eye, whatever they are, in life, their instinct is they got to be, they're prey. So they got to go from being prey to being predator as fast as they can. So if you give them a lot of food and you're running them hot, you're not going to have a fat monitor. You're going to get the proper growth that they need. They'll hit Ackies, Audatrias. They're going to hit 10 inches. Once they hit 10 inches, they'll slow down naturally because they're no longer, worried about being preyed upon, but now they're more worried about finding lizards and crevices and bugs, and they're the hunter now. So they got a whole different lifestyle. Their brain is different now. Now they're no longer shy and scared. They're taking chances for food. They're taking chances for growth, for upbringing, to go on to the next generation. That's what these animals all want to do. They want to reproduce. They want to keep their species going. And you got to kind of work with that. So my advice is if you run them hot, you're not going to have a fat animal. And also, it depends. You got to use like pinky parts. Once they hit a size where they're taking them pinky parts real good, now you got to take some quail chicks like out of the egg, like bullets. They're 15 days incubated. They're still in the egg. You open the egg up, you pull that gooey little bird out, and you chop that up. Now, I feed my animals every day. I give them vitamins and minerals. Sticky Tongue Farms mineral with every feeding. That's every day. Every animal I have here feeds every day. They're not feeding to where they're satisfied. They're a big lump and they're just laying there. I give them food every day because that's part of the process. And to breed them, you got to keep them thinking that they're in a time of plenty. So what I've found over the years is when you do that with rodents, you're going to wind up with a fat animal. When you do that with birds, I don't care how many birds. I mean, a quail chick is, I don't even know, maybe.
You want me to go grab one out of the incubator really quick?
Pardon?
I say, you want me to go grab one out of the incubator really quick?
Yeah, well, the ones, what are they? Probably about 6 grams or so.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you got a 5-foot coming eye monitor and I give them 25 little 5-gram birds, it's really nothing. And their metabolism is so high.
No fat on those things.
Yeah, there's no fat on them, and it sustains them. It does really well for them. So another thing that I could say for anybody with any, medium-sized to larger monitors, get them on them birds, man. Birds and quails and quail eggs, and it's so good for them. I use a lot of fish, even on the Audatrias, which is the craziest thing I've ever seen. Bringing up some baby Kimberly rocks. I was chopping up food. And I started chopping up some silver sides. I was like, these things are from the outback in Australia. So I go to the Kimberly rocks. I offer them the fish, chopped fish. They went freaking nuts. They love fish. So I use a lot of fish, quails, quail eggs, bugs, and rodents every now and then. Not a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see a lot of people with these big monitors feeding like medium rats and stuff, like these massive rats. And I'm like, that can't be. That's not, because like to me, it's not natural.
No,
like it's
not on a regular basis, at least.
Yeah, no, like these things they're kind of like, I understand most reptiles are opportunistic feeders, but if you're feeding even like your biggest monitors, if you're feeding it a couple medium rats every day, like, dude, come on.
Heavy meal.
Like,
it's a heavy meal. It takes a long time to digest. And from a breeder standpoint, you're actually going backwards feeding a diet like that, because they no longer are interested in patrolling their environment, looking and foraging. Now they're like a snake. They're just lumped up with food in their belly. They go in a corner or under a basking light, and they just lay there. So by you giving them such a heavy meal like that, from a breeder standpoint, that's counterproductive, because you want these animals active and aware. And like I say, if you feed them every day, birds, man, they burn that off so fast. I could probably feed them twice a day, because there's nothing to them.
Yeah,
but they work great.
Pretty low calorie.
Yeah, and let's talk one more thing about feed. Now, I had, back in the day when I bred my peach throats, I had inadvertently, this was a long time ago, 20, 30 years, probably 30 years ago. I hate saying how fucking old I am, but so back in the beginnings of monitor breeding, there was not a lot known, not a lot of information shared. Half of it was bullshit anyways. So, I started thinking like a monitor, like, what is a peach throat? A peach throat is a forest river type animal. So sand is out. Okay. Maybe a little bit of sand. So we started using cypress mulch, which is crap. Then we started using the potting soil mixed with sand. That's crap. Any store-bought stuff, in my opinion, is fucking crap. Number one, you're spending money on something that you can go find a clean spot and dig it up, and you're bringing it home. So I would go I lived in DeKalb at the time. I would go near the, what the hell is that? It's called the Kishwaukee River. I'd find a real clean forest area by the river, and I'd dig up dirt. So I get all this dirt home. Everybody looking at me like I'm a fucking weirdo, but whatever.
No, man.
Yeah. So I packed this enclosure full of this outside dirt, and a couple weeks after I had done this, they just immediately start sniffing and digging. They love it. They love natural dirt. So it was about 10 minutes before lights out. My peach throat laid a big turd on top of the dirt, and I was like, the lights are about to go out. I'll get that in the morning. So when I come down the next morning, the lights come on, and I look where the shit was, and I see millipedes and centipedes and roly-polies just running for their, like roaches in the light, running for their lives, and the pile of shit was gone. So I inadvertently started like a bioactive type setup, I guess. Right. I called them my workhorses back then. But so the story goes like this. So my peach throat, he's a big 4-foot animal. He was big. And this centipede, a little red centipede from up here in Illinois, I don't know, it had to be about maybe 2 inches tops, little tiny thing like that game Centipede. I hear the music in my head. That animal ran from across the enclosure like a kid on Christmas morning, and he grabs this tiny little centipede and gulps it down, and he was so happy. I'm like, yeah. But that just goes to show you, man, they're opportunistic. They're going to feed whenever they have the chance. So if you make it the wrong food items, you'll turn your animals into sluggards. So
nice.
I've seen my 4-foot male eat some normal sized large crickets before. I had one of the tongs, and I was just like, what happens? I showed it to him. Homie went nuts for it.
Yeah, they'll take it.
Tongs, but he got the cricket and was all stoked on it. I was like,
they never know when the next one's going to come by, so they got to get it.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I feel like that's the problem with feeding a lot of your lab, rats and mice. It's like they're going to eat it because they're opportunistic feeders. They don't know when the next meal is going to come. So if you offer them a food item, they're going to take it. But just because it's there doesn't mean it's the best thing to give them, Like that's why a lot of, obviously we're talking about monitors here, but with my snakes, I've cut out rats almost completely, because rats are fucking disgusting. And so like a lot of my carpets and stuff now eat quail because like I know that is so much healthier of a meal, and it's much more naturalistic.
Yep.
Like they're gonna eat more birds than anything. Do you think there's a bunch of medium lab rats running around in fucking Indonesia? There's not. There's none.
That reminds me, going back to my early days of colubrid breeding, I was really into Bogertophus. So I had like the sawbox and the Baja rats and the Centicolus triaspis intermedias. And, they're not delicate snakes, but when it comes to food, they can be delicate. So I was getting rodents in the early days. I was getting rodents from the local show here. And I was noticing, like, when they would shit, they were like greasy shits. Yeah. So me and the rat guy, we made friends, and he has me over to his house one time, and I'm looking at his mice and rat colony, and I'm like, what the hell is that you're feeding them? And he's like, oh, it's hog chow and dog food. I'm like, and dog food? So I'm thinking to myself, I picked up one of them kibbles of the dog food, and it was literally greasy.
Yep.
So I'm like, oh, okay. So I started breeding my own mice and rats using only lab blocks and corn. And my snake's turds turned into beautiful little puffs of hair, no greasy to them, no wet to them. Yeah. And so then I started selling my rodents, and, people would say, why you sell yours a little more than that guy? So you want, why don't you just go get a bag of dog food and feed your snakes the dog food? That's what you're getting. So I had everybody mad at me, but I feel I was able to charge more because, number one, it's a healthier product. And number two, I paid more for the Missouri lab blocks than, you can get a 90-pound bag of Old Roy dog food for $5.
Right.
And that you get what you get. You're getting junk.
Really quick, because
so
I'm starting to grow my own quail and everything now. And I just was throwing, obviously this last month, I was throwing a couple Papuans some bigger meals. So I threw a couple older, bigger quail off to them. What you were just saying literally is the reason why I'm going to push myself into a grave running this collection and growing my own feeders, because I'm not going to say any names, but the supplier I was getting my quail from, when my snakes would poop that out, it was kind of like a black and grayish, somewhat feathered mass of poop. Like it looked like a poop, but it was like a grayish black, looked like it had not 100% dissolved feather, right?
Right.
I just fed off my quails or whatever, fully solid, looked like some dog turds, and you could see remnants of the seeds from the feed that I was feeding my quail. And I sent that to some of my buddies, and I was like, reasons A, B, and C why I will not be buying feeders from anyone else anymore, because that just lets you know the circle of life. Everything that I'm spending all this dumb money on food, and they're getting 5 different options of food every day. Well, guess what? That's going into my snakes, and they're getting all of that nutrients, and they're getting everything else. And those turds didn't look like half feathered turds. They looked like actual fully processed turds. So it just,
Right.
I can't go back at this point. It's just,
and that really says something, because like everybody will tell you, you know, you start feeding carpets, birds. Everybody's like, oh, don't start feeding carpets, birds, because like they'll get hooked. But then like also their shits are nasty. They're always like, yeah, you start feeding them these quail, they have diarrhea and this and that, blah blah blah.
You know what?
And I'm like,
birds
it shouldn't be that way.
Birds are so much easier to get than rodents. I mean, you know, rodent breeders are breeding for reptile food. Okay, so it's like a niche. If you go on Facebook Marketplace and put in your local area 4-H club, man, you'll find so many people. Like, they might, depending on where you live, like where I live, I got people who breed chickens and birds and quails and ducks, and they're everywhere. They're raising them for food, for human food.
Right,
so it's a good quality thing. Like, I seen something the other day, and man, oh man, I just don't fucking get it. This goes way back 30 years. There was a zoo who came up with a zoo diet, and the diet was formulated for raptors. Okay. And what the diet was, it was ground turkey, a Centrum vitamin, and bone meal or some shit like that. You know, I mean, when I was young, I didn't have money. I worked my ass off for everything I got. So I'm like, hey man, you know, ground turkey, that's cheap. I'll go to the store and get it. I got the Centrum vitamins. I put the bone meal in it. I did all of that. And my monitors were shitting fucking gravy.
Liquid.
I said, no way. So we got into a conversation, me and the guy who invented this. And I'm like, hey, why do you do that? I said, here's my experience. I fed it to him, and I basically had a room full of monitor lizards that had diarrhea. And I don't like that. Maybe birds always have diarrhea. I don't know. So he goes, well, it's the same nutrition as a mouse. And I stopped for a minute. I scratched my head. I'm like, dude, is there trouble getting mice? I mean, I could see if there was no mice, you got to substitute something. But if a mouse changes the diet so much, and people to this day still use ground turkey, ground pork, ground deer, man, if you want to give them turkey, go get a turkey and cut the motherfucker up with scissors. Yep. It's the same thing, because when I did that turkey bullshit and I was making the little turkey balls, I'm making these turkey balls and I'm feeling this shit in there, right? And I look, it was about a 1/2 inch long esophagus. So basically, ground turkey is everything that they can't sell as meat. It's the gizzard, it's the throat, it's the comb, it's the feet, it's garbage.
It's and it's for your monitor.
And you know what? It's processed. So that's what happens when you feed your animals. They process that. They break it down. They take the nutrients out of it, and whatever is undigestible, they shit out. Well, when you give them processed food, the processed part is done. They eat this mash. It goes into their belly. They take very little out of it because there's nothing in it to begin with. It's like I said, all the shit, and the only thing you get out is a big mess. Greasy water dishes, nasty looking shits on your substrate. And I don't know why people still do it. I mean, it can't be. I pay like fucking 40 cents for a quail. I mean, is it cheaper than 40 cents for a quail? It's probably around the same price.
No.
You know, and then I heard another guy saying that, well, you know, he lost an animal. And I'm not mentioning no names. He lost an animal. And he went on to to talk about why he suspected he lost this animal. He goes, well, I have employees and maybe somebody didn't microwave the chicken, pork, or whatever long enough. And I'm like, now we're cooking monitor food?
What?
Who cooks for them in the wild? I just don't get it. It blows me away, but everybody does things different. Like I say, there's more than one way to skin a cat, but some things are just freaking common sense,
making
man.
your life harder than it needs to be.
Yeah. If it's that expensive for you, maybe you should go to the little geckos that eat the honey and shit like that.
Now, when I first got into the big my big Joviensis, I was making some diet mistakes, and it took me about 6 months or so to really figure out the learning curve of that. But you can easily pack weight on a monitor. You cannot easily get weight off of a monitor. It is literally
that's the case with pretty much all reptiles.
Yeah, that's reptiles.
Of dieting and exercise for me to get this guy back into a prime state of health to where he doesn't have fat reserves hanging off of his sides. And I've talked to people in monitor keepers in UK and other monitor keepers, and like we've conversed on dieting and all that. And like, I'll 100% agree. My bigger male, everything is Mike saying, the quail eggs, the smaller quails, 100% the best diet for a medium size or large monitor, because it's a full prey item. So like you said, you're getting that solid turd, and you're getting the calcium, you're getting the bone development, you're getting everything. And
well, it's high protein, low calorie. It's even then, I don't know if I'd say it's necessarily high protein, but it's definitely leaner than any mammalian.
Yeah,
any monitor in the wild isn't going out there and chewing on a pig's leg or chewing on a processed turkey leg that's full of hormones that's been grown in a California or a freaking wherever farm. Right. It's not wild. So
right, and
for a 2-inch centipede, these 4-foot monitors are insectivorous as all hell, and they're going for bird nests and they're going for small birds. Their prey items are so small, but we're giving them what we think is small. And like I said, I thought I was giving my guys small items, and I realized I'm making an obese monitor. So adapt, change, and learn. And yeah, here we are a year later, and he's finally looking better.
And that's exactly why, like, I've always been I won't say always. As of recent, I've been more of an advocate of like multiple small meals, because a lot of these things are, like you said, insectivores, nest raiders. If they're nest raiders, they're getting a bunch of tiny little crap. You know what I mean? They're not taking the biggest thing they can shove down their gullet, because that's hard. That's difficult. That's hard to do, like those bigger things they're a lot quicker. They fly a lot faster, they're harder to get. So they're getting 5-10 of these little tiny things, but they equal one big thing. But those bunch of little tiny things are a lot better for them than that one massive meal.
Well, you're also talking too, the ecology of like the work to reward sort of ratio, where it's like if you're spending so much more energy trying to tackle one big thing and eat it, when you could do it all much easier if you're going for multiple smaller things that are, easier to get a hold of, faster to digest,
I'm sure and it doesn't really turn them into sluggards like a big, and I give them a big meal. I mean, they get a lot of quails, but it's never one bulk, one bulk thing that sits in their belly. I mean, when you have ice cubes in a glass, okay, those ice cubes in a glass, they melt down pretty quick because there's a lot of surface area to it. If you put one giant lump of ice in your glass, man, you got ice all day. You know what I mean? It takes so long for that to slowly break down. Same with a big, heavy prey item. It just takes longer to process.
That's a good analogy.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why with a lot of my colubrids, like right now, the large majority of my collection is, North American rat snakes and pituophis. You know, a lot of those things are like I skip food sizes because, like, yeah, at a size I'll give them one prey item, yeah, but I don't go between. You know, I skip the kind of in between sizes, and I feed doubles of smaller stuff versus one big item. You know, because I feel like it's easier to digest. It's better for them, you know, like it's not as hard versus taking that one massive meal. And I feel like that goes for
And you know, it's funny that
everything.
you say that, like with colubrids. So I'm also very into colubrids. I like dry marcan. I like dry
Yeah.
mulbus. I like, you know, North American desert rat snakes. These are all a little, I mean, as far as, you know, the common stuff people keep, they're not, I mean, even like Honduran milk snakes and stuff like that, I don't think people do them right. You know, who am I to say anything? But my way would be, you know, multiple smaller meals,
Yeah.
and not just once a week. Maybe a small meal on a Monday and then another small meal on a Thursday. You know, so
Right.
you're keeping your animals active and engaging, and like boas, for example, boas and pythons, animals like that, they're used to eating certain boas and pythons. They're used to eating, you know, a big meal.
Right.
But again, they get that one big meal, they crawl off. People always cry about, oh, you keep those retics in them little drawers. You know what? If you put them in a 20-foot cage and you gave them a pig, that motherfucker is going to go in the same spot and he's going to coil in the same spot. The only time he gets active is when he's, you know, looking for food. So I don't really think, I'm not a rack guy at all. I would never keep animals in a rack. But, you know, certain animals, I mean, they lay around. And then when they're not laying around, if they're out looking for food, pull them out of your drawer. Let them roam your room. Take them out in the yard. Let them crawl around. Give them the exercise they need. Feed them. Put them back in the drawer. No problems.
Right.
But you ain't doing that with monitors, man. No way.
Yeah.
Monitors, they if you do that, you're gonna wind up with these. You know, you ever see these people with Savannah monitors? They look like a burrito or a football.
Yeah.
That animal is gone, man. That's a fatty liver disease. That's a huge fat store. You want to avoid that at all costs with monitors.
Right. And I feel like that's almost with anything, you know, like I really try to, you know, again, like talking snakes, because I don't keep monitors. I don't keep lizards. I only have my reference for snakes, but
We're getting you there,
you
though.
know, yeah, no, but I really try to, you know, manipulate my snakes how it is for humans. You know, like a fat animal is not a good animal. A thick animal is not a good animal. You want that lean body type. You know, if it's, you know, everybody loves
You don't want them to look like me.
Or me.
You know, but like you don't want them to, you don't want that big obese, you know, like everybody thinks like, oh, he's chubby, he's cute. That's not cute. That's not cute at all, because you're going to cut that animal's lifespan in half.
Absolutely.
Because like you're feeding all these fatty items so often, like, you know,
Like
cut it down.
200-pound 12-year-old.
Exactly. You know,
depressing.
like it's depressing. It's sad. You know, I don't
It
like my
is.
animals to be fat. You know, like, yeah, when it comes to, like, you know, especially with pythons, you know, carpets specifically, because Skylar, you can attest to this. Like pythons, you can get them fat so easily, so quick, because like, yeah, like you said, Mike, you know, they're used to eating those big items in the wild, but like that big item will last them a month, 2, 3.
That's the whole thing. People
You
think when that
know?
lump is gone, oh, he's hungry. He ain't hungry. He can go a
No.
long time.
Yeah, and like just because they're cruising the cage a little bit doesn't mean they need to eat right away.
Nope.
You know, like they just, if you fed them every time they wanted to eat, you could feed them every other fucking day.
And they'd be fat. Yep.
Exactly. You know, like your 9-foot coastals are not healthy coastals.
No,
Like,
I was listening to NPR and they were talking. I forget who it was, but I have a lot of respect for those guys. You know, they're all very, very smart, articulate people. So they were saying that, like with the scrubs and stuff, the big 9-footers are generally not as good of breeders as the 6 and 7-footers.
No.
Yeah.
Because they're still, I mean, and you know it too. I've seen fat turtles, fat monitors, fat snakes. And when you look at that animal ain't stupid. He knows he ain't right. He knows he's too heavy. He knows he's too fat. But, it's just like a kid. You bring him to McDonald's every day, he's going to eat every day. So, it's up to us as responsible, as the responsible animal keepers of their welfare, is to keep them in a healthy state. What we do is what we do. I mean, we got a whole different way of life, but they don't. They're pretty much 100%, in our care. We're basically God to them, I mean, we give them the food they eat. If you don't give them the food, they figure something else out. They burn off calories, and they do what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, we play God every day keeping these animals, and we have to do what's right by them, and
The
like
Lord
whether
giveth,
that
the Lord
be
taketh away.
with Pituophis, they live most of their lives underground. But a lot of that is raiding nests of a bunch of little tiny things and just going to town on that. It's not one massive pregnant mama, freaking, rodent. It's a bunch of the little babies, that last them a week, then they go down again,
It's crazy when like here in Illinois, we got some of the best bull snakes in the world, really. Kankakee County,
Oh yeah, baby.
Iroquois County. These are all probably the most beautiful bull snakes on the planet. And we used to snake hunt. It's hard for me to get around now, but when I was younger, we used to go snake hunting, and we flipped over a tin one time, and I noticed this vole. You know what a vole is, right? It's like a rodent.
Yeah.
And man, I freaked out. I seen this fucking rodent taking off with like 20 arms, and it was just flipping and flopping. I'm like, holy shit, what the hell was that? What it was a mama, and when she gives off a special little chirp or whatever, all the little babies just clamp onto her teats, and she's running for her life, and the little babies just hold on to her teeth.
They're along for the ride.
And they're on, because if they let go, man, that bull snake is right there to eat them. So they know, man, hold on to mama's teeth, and they're safe. So it's crazy, man. That was a weird thing to see. But what a survival mechanism, right?
Yeah, that's insane.
Did you ever keep
mechanism?
Huh?
I had the same survival mechanism.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Grab onto mama's teeth and stay. For
my
the ride,
jaw's
boy.
getting weak now. I'm getting old.
Tyler, hold on, we gotta go.
my wife just hits a certain call.
Mike, did you ever keep bears rats?
I'm sorry?
Did you ever keep bears rats?
No, I didn't. You know what? When I was into all the desert rat snakes, I wanted them, but I wanted that specific purple metallic look, and I could never find the really, really killer bears. So I never got them. I mean, I've seen dogs, and I just didn't want them,
Yeah.
Yeah. For sure.
So we're like an hour 30 in. I just want to get off to this next
yeah, go ahead, man.
Socialization type thing that hopefully helps people out. So with my water monitors, be it Mertens, Coming Eyes, Sulfurs, any of them, I come up with this after keeping them several different ways and not really having good luck with them, and then picking up on little cues that they were doing. I kind of developed this new raise up method. So basically, when I have eggs hatch, me and my sons, or even a couple of my daughters, I got 8 kids, so we're all over the place.
Nice.
There's always 1, 2, 3, 4 of us when the eggs are hatching. we take them out of the egg box. They come into our hands. We rinse them off. And basically from the minute they come out of the egg, we're interacting with them. So they lose their fear of us really, really quick. But there's a few that are tentative. So again, I've already figured out their security needs are very minimal. So you could take a cork tube and drill 1-inch holes in it, make that fucker look like Swiss cheese. If they're in it, they're totally safe. But you can see them through all these little ports and these holes. And when you got a bunch of babies that you're raising, they generally, they'll pack in these things and they'll have their head sticking out here and there. But they feel totally secure like that. So I started doing that. And then I noticed that everything was good, but they were real leery of coming out of this Swiss cheese cork tube. So I'm thinking to myself, I'm trying to think like how a hatchling monitor would behave. Right. And then they're water monitors, of course, Mertens. This all started with my Mertens. So when Mertens hatch, Mertens are a very communal group of lizards. They'll hang out in packs and in harems, and their babies are with them. And, when they get to a certain point, they'll eat their babies. But for the most part, they'll guard them for, I don't know, a little while, I would imagine.
Until they're hungry.
Yeah, exactly. But, they want their species to continue on. So I'm sure they're going to take something else over one of their babies.
Right.
So I started thinking like these baby monitors, and I'm thinking, alligators, they hang around in the water, in the weeds, mama's nearby, security. So what I did was I did away with all substrate. I took 40 breeder Exoterras, and I took a glass drill and I drilled holes in the bottom. So then I put a bulkhead and a valve, fill that thing up with about 1 inch of water, put a cork tube that goes across the whole 40 breeder with all these holes in it and a plant on there. So now they could bask on top, and only one light off to one side, cover the whole top with plastic, of course, to keep the heat and humidity in. So they'll bask on the one spot, and the ones that are more bold, they'll bask on the top of the cork log. The ones that are a little more skittish and meek, they bask within the cork tube because you got the holes all in there, and the heat penetrates, and I keep everything very, very hot. So you feed them through that little hole, and when they get nervous, if they get nervous in their cork tube, they have that water to jump into, and their water for that specific, those species, water monitors, Mertens, anything that's highly aquatic, just as secure as that cork tube is, the water is so important for their well-being. As soon as they hit that water, they think you can't see them. The water's crystal clear. It's only 1 inch deep. There's a little plant in there. I got fake plant in the water, but they just feel totally secure. So now they go underwater. They stay underwater. They'll pop their heads up like an alligator. They'll look at you. They feel totally secure. They're in the water. Pass them a little piece of food down there. They realize you're not bad. They're safe. So that's another method that I've used. And when people buy my Mertens, my Coming Eye, any of my aquatic monitors, I tell them about the 40 breeder with the hole in the bottom. It's very simple to do, very cheap to do. Front opening, of course. And the people that listen to me, like I said earlier, they are like, oh, you got the best monitors. They're so tame and da-da-da-da. Believe me, it's not to do with the monitor, but the way you raise it. Mm-hmm. So I have other people who, and I could talk your ears off, man, and I'm sorry if I'm rambling. I'm sorry, Skylar.
No, man.
While you're on that really quick,
man, that's why you're here.
I wanted to ask you a question about that because I was literally about to ask you about those setups.
Yeah.
And I wanted to bring up the Mertens as well. Did you notice any or a lot of similarities between the Joviensis and the Mertens body structure wise and habit wise at all?
Yeah, they're very similar. They're medium-sized monitor. If I had peach throats and I was trying to acclimate them, I would do them just like I'm doing my Togiensis, which is a little more elaborate setup with complete water bottom, because they get security in the water. Peach throats too. They're another highly aquatic species.
I've noticed that.
So
That's why I asked.
like I was saying, the people who don't, you know, they look at my adult cages all decked out, beautiful plants, and hiding and just, but they don't understand. My animals advanced up into that to where once I put them in that type of a setup, they're no longer afraid of me. They'll come to me for food. I don't have to hunt them down. Wherever they're at, when I open that door, they're coming to me, whether it's for food or just to see what I'm up to. So the people that don't listen to me and they want to put them in a real nice setup with the plants and all the hiding, man, they'll call me up and they'll say, "Oh, this thing's the meanest son of a bitch." I'm like, "Oh, how deep is the water you put on the bottom?" Like, "Well, I didn't do that. I just put substrate on the bottom." And I'm like, "Okay, so basically you're telling me you didn't listen to me. Now you're having socialization issues and you want me to solve your problem. I already solved your problem. You didn't listen to me." So, and trust me, I want what's best for the animals, and I want people to succeed too. So while I'm taken aback by you not listening to me in the first place, we'll go through the whole step by step. And now I've come to the point, me and my wife, we always discuss business and stuff. And, we pretty much, unless you're somebody I know, you're going to get put through the ringer. I'm going to tell you, whether you want to hear it or not, I'm going to tell you your best chance of succeeding with these animals. If you listen to me, great. If you don't come back crying to me until you redo your setup the way I said in the first place. Then you won't cry to me. You'll be happy. So it's just like, assurance. I want the people to have a good experience, but most importantly to me, I want my animals happy.
Yeah.
Right.
Honestly, Mike, after watching the videos of how you have your baby Kamai and those baby sulfurs, those setups you have them in with the platform and the two little hides and everything, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yep.
I've honestly been considering making a version of that to put some of these baby peach throats in, because I've noticed they're highly aquatic. I've compared their body structure to a lot of other water monitors and Mertens monitors. Their body structure is damn near the same. And I've looked, and obviously they live in aquatic areas. And when I see them in water, they're so natural in water. I've been considering, and I was so excited to ask you tonight, about the whole peach throat and Mertens water monitor.
How big are these peach throats that you're talking about?
I have ones that are a couple months old, or probably like a month or 2 months old. I have ones that are almost a year old, and then I have my adult male. So I was thinking about putting those younger ones in similar setups to what you have, because not only will it work better, it'll be easier to maintenance without doing everything like you're saying, where you got to go in, even though I'm to the point now where I've realized when you do have to go in and do your maintenance or whatever to the water when you're still in the manual stage, like myself, and you have to make it a positive interaction. So a freaking 3-minute ordeal turns into a 20-minute ordeal.
Yep.
I was obviously, I'd take what you do in like a sponge. So seeing your setups, I've been thinking about setting something up like that at my house, because it'll be easier and it seems super successful. And I feel like it'll really give the animals what they want.
Man, these setups are a win-win. They're so easy to maintain, and everything you're maintaining from outside the enclosure. So you drain your water, they see the water going down, you go in there with your hose, you spray everything down until it runs out the drain, close the drain, fill it back up. They think you're like God, they're not afraid of you. They know you're doing beneficial things for them, and they take to it real well.
I need to do that. I'm going to go ahead and get on that mission then for these young ones, because
yeah,
I feel like that's a better solution, because I'm getting progress, but I'm taking the long way around. And
hey, Skylar, hit me up if you want if you want to talk about the setup and stuff. I'll be glad to help you out.
100%. Yeah. I only like to bug you so much because one, I like to learn the hard way and do shit, figure it out on my own because I'm a stubborn asshole. But dude, I've done that. I've done this enough, and you're the king. So I'm coming to the king.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm just a guy like you who, I started off just like you as a young man, and I figured out all this shit. And, that's why I'm happy to share these techniques and these methods with people because, like I said, I love the animals. I want the animals to thrive, but I also want people to have a good experience. And this is just a segue into the main reason I love these animals, because I like putting them in naturalistic setups that look like what I think a piece of their environment would look like. But if you do that from the get-go, it's counterproductive to the socialization. So if you start them off going through these methods that I've developed over the years, when they start coming to you, I don't care. And I tell people this, you could put them in your fucking backyard. When you come outside, they're going to run to you because they want to see what you're doing, if you have food or whatever. And literally, I don't mean in your backyard, but in a big, elaborate, beautiful cage where instead of them hiding when you come, they can hide whenever they want. Now, when you come, they come out of their hiding. So that's what it's all about. You got to make them comfortable so you could do your wellness checks on them and, make sure they're in good health. If they're hiding from you, man, that's bad because, again, these are high metabolism animals. So if something goes wrong, it goes wrong quick.
Fast.
So, if you got something that you haven't seen in 3 days, man, that's not good. I mean, 3 days, you could have a full-blown double infection and, you're behind the 8 ball now. But if you get them, start them off the way I said, and they come to the point where if you got them in a fancy, elaborate setup, they'll literally come right to you. And then, it's a win-win for you, the animals, and people who come over and see these beautiful setups with animals that aren't hiding from you. So
yeah, Jake was convinced for a long time that my Ackies weren't even real because every time they were never
I
out.
still remember those when he would mention that. They're not even there. What Ackies?
You don't have Ackies.
They'd be out all day, and then as soon as Jake would be there, then they wouldn't be. So
that's a thing. That's a thing with a lot of wild caught monitors. It's called empty cage syndrome. When you look in your cage and there's, you got a beautiful setup, but you don't see any animals in there. Well, you want to get them to that point, but you want to get them used to you before you get them into something like that.
Right.
Exactly.
I just want them to love me, damn it.
Oh, they will. They will. I'm telling you, try the old pinky parts and, pinky gut. You even try silver sides, cut into small pieces.
I offered them frog leg at one point, and they had no interest in the.
Yeah. That's kind of a tough sell, but I'm sure if you had, house geckos or something, they'd be all over that. So,
what about
it just depends on what you're feeding them.
What about tilapia? Do you think they would go for that?
Man, tilapia, I wouldn't feed tilapia to my kids. I wouldn't feed tilapia. Tilapia is junk. See, you know what the problem with tilapia is? If you get a tilapia that's like this and you chop it up, fins, guts, innards, eyeballs, everything, feed all the tilapia you want. But if you're talking about, when I hear someone say tilapia, I'm thinking like store-bought tilapia.
Yeah,
man, that is fucking garbage. That is junk. So basically, around here in the spring, we have a trout farm, and in the spring they call them fingerlings. So now when they sell them to all the lakes and the ponds, and when they have an overabundance of them or early die-offs, this guy freezes them, and I'll buy these fingerlings. And again, it's a full fish. It's not a salmon fillet, or it's the bone, it's the oil, it's the gut, eyeballs, bone, everything. So I guess that's the bottom line is you could feed turkey, but give them turkey leg, give them the innards, you give them the beak. You got to give them. It's basically whole prey chopped up, perfectly fine. I don't have a problem with that. But when you're starting to do, feet and esophagus and comb and stuff like that, man, that's the shit nobody wants. It's
Right.
make hot dogs out of that stuff,
Yeah.
I don't know. My reasoning behind like the grabbing them while they're cold thing was like, maybe if I handle them for a bit and they realize nothing's gonna happen to them, they'll eventually be like, okay, I know what this guy's gonna do. He's just gonna.
And you know
come down
what?
for a few minutes and do the
Ackies
thing.
are smart. They're very forgiving. It's a great place to start with monitors. So, yeah, they're going to overcome that because obviously you're not harming them. It's just a little different. You're kind of forcing yourself on them rather than having them come to you, which it's okay because you're not harming them. Like, if, for example, if you were to pick one of them up one day out of a cold state and you're handling them and they start getting a little fired up and they reach around and they bite your finger and you jump, that's a bad interaction. So as long as they're not biting,
happened yet.
Yeah, as long as they're not biting or showing any type of, being afraid or aggression, just, it'll work out. It's just going to take a little longer.
I was fully expecting them to light me up at some point, but they haven't. So
yeah.
The videos you've been sending, dude, their body reactions and their body language, they seem super calm. Like they're like at that tolerant stage of like.
That's after like a few minutes of them freaking out, and then
yeah.
But realize the thing, but
they're gonna freak out because they don't know what's going on. But then they're like, okay, you're good, I'm good, we're hanging.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was going for is like if I'm not. Like I don't have them in a death grip or anything like that. I'm holding them, but I'm slowly loosening my grip a little bit so that they realize like they can move if they want to, and then treadmilling a little bit. And
a
lot of times I notice they go straight for my chest and climb up my shoulders, and then they'll try and climb up the back of my neck, and then they'll pop off my head. And
a lot of times too, when you're doing that handling like you're talking about, if as long as you keep their brain engaged, like hand over hand, crawling up your shirt, gently taking them off your shirt, handling, keep their brain occupied. Then they don't really have time to become frightened. Yeah. So as long as you're they're moving and they're working and their brain is thinking and constantly processing what's going on, it's generally if they stop that moving, they're trying to assess.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I gathered, just because they would stop and they'd kind of look at me, and then I'd move my hand or something, they'd look at my hand, and then they'd kind of look around and kind of you could tell they were sort of like trying to figure out what was going on. But I tried to offer them some food because I had the little tongs that I use that they became really familiar with, and offered them food while I was holding them, and neither of them were like, "No, dude, this isn't happening. This is."
And you know what's another very good thing for your Ackies? Get a quail egg, an unfertilized quail egg, like with no bullet in there, no baby in there, and just lop the top of it off and put it in a little dish or in the substrate, whatever. And they'll come up in there and they'll just start licking that. They love it. Yeah,
I thought about that, but I wasn't sure if it would, if they would have any interest in that or not.
Oh, they would. They love it. Hey, for wild caught imported animals, finicky animals, I get questions all the time. Like, my Savannah monitor will only eat, a pinky. And I'm like, oh, yeah? Okay. Go get a chicken egg out of your refrigerator, soft boil that motherfucker, and I don't care what you dip in it. Dip a roach, dip a moth, dip a centipede, dip a quail in there, dip it in that warm egg yolk. They're going to eat it, man. They like that sloppy stuff.
The Aggies go nuts over some scrambled eggs, man.
Yeah.
Oh my God, they love those. I try to vary it up too. I mean, I have a big mealworm colony. I have some small dubia. I've got the scrambled eggs. Every now and then, if I have pinkies, I'll have some smaller ones that I'll give them that I think really only female seems to have any interest in. But yeah, well, I've been wanting to try the egg thing. I just wasn't sure if that was something they'd go for or not. I didn't want to open an egg and then them tip it over and make a fucking mess.
Yeah, they love it.
Dude, Justin, if you just keep up steady with what pace you're on right now, I feel like in a month you're going to be like light years ahead of what you ever thought you'd be, because just in the last week, the progress that you've sent over video is more than you said.
I don't know. I mean, like I said, I tried the platform thing, having them come out, and that seemed to work up to a degree, but then after a while, like they kind of figured out that game where they're like, if I just do this, I don't have to worry about anything else. So I wasn't.
Exactly.
Guess I wasn't really pushing them.
Sounds like they trained you pretty good, Justin.
Yep.
And honestly, I feel like when you bring that up, it all goes back to what Mike's saying about the initial cage setup. Like, obviously, we want to set them up in something awesome because we want to see our monitors use these things that we set up that we think is going to look cool when they use them, which that's obviously why we all do the stuff that we do. But it's almost like, because I just want to say this because I know a couple of people in the chat were asking questions about this, but it seems like simple yet effective seems the best way to go. Like one option of everything, like one basking spot that's minute, one climbing area that's minute but exposed, one water area that's exposed, like something that no matter what, they're exposed to you and you're exposed to them. So there's always that trust building stage so that they're not, even if they're hidden, they can see you, like I was saying, like even that, like I picked up on what he says, all of my hides like that. They all got.
I'm sorry, guys.
You're good.
Good. I was just telling how I got all my hides set up like how you've been saying all night with the holes and the corks and everything, because as long as they're hidden, but they can see you, and just having everything simple where that hide is a hide, but no matter what, you can see them and they can see you. It breaks that barrier down day after day, because even if they're hiding and you come in the room, they're going to see you, you see them. And like you said, the whole eye contact thing, just making them feel comfortable walking by and not totally staring at them. Like it's all the dumb little things that add up every day. And like, I just want to try to reiterate this a little bit before we end this, because I know people about it, but it's just like little dumb habits, picking up on what your monitor finds positive with what you do with them, making that a habit, because I have 5 different peach throats and I treat all 5 of them differently based off their, I don't even know what I'm trying to say.
Individual quirks.
And I think that plays into a lot of like, I think a lot of people look at a species and say, oh, I can treat all of them the same. You have to realize these animals are just like people. They're just people, and they all have their own individual personalities. You can treat one a certain way and it be more comfortable, but if you do one the exact same way, it may not be the same comfortability, like even cages, like personality, like you cannot treat every animal in the same. And that's why Skylar, like I respect what you do so fucking much, because like you look at the animals individually and react accordingly, not just like a broad like what I do for peach thirds, like that's it. No, you have to read the animal, you have to know what you're looking at and then react accordingly, because they're not all going to act the same, period.
No.
That's why I started with my ramble with Justin's first question of like stupid little lizards to alligator lizards, to Asian dragons, to these monitors. There's no cookie cutter. I've socialized with all of these lizards, from little lizard to monitor to gecko. I've socialized with all of them over time. I can't say I have as much experience as Mike with monitors by any means necessary, but I can tell you that I've got 28 years of dedicating experience to all these different lizards and reptiles. So I know how to read a reptile like I know how to read something. I know how to read a reptile better than I can read a book, and I'm dyslexic as hell. So that's a fact.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because snakes and lizards, like I said before, a snake, when he's full and he's at rest, he's literally almost like not there, and it takes a little to snap them into looking around and smelling the air. Lizards are not like that. I mean, if they hear a mouse fart, they're going to open their eyes, they're going to look around. They're so, yeah, and I would imagine it's because of the as at first as prey, they got to be aware of their surroundings, because one wrong mistake, they're done. Then as they get bigger, one little noise, one little change in light, they got to look because that might be their next meal. So they're, because of their high metabolism, they're a whole different type of animal. Now, as we're talking about this, like I said, I'm also into certain colubrids, like dry marcon. They're the same way, man. They'll be full, sitting under a hide or whatever, and you could pass through their light or anything like that. But if you give a tap on a window or a vibration, man, that motherfucker, they wake up quick, unlike boas and pythons and things that are more, I don't even know,
not as present.
Yeah, not as present, because again, these high metabolism animals, number one, little indigos, they're food for everything. And big indigos, they got such a high metabolism. If they hear a chicken scurrying across the sand, or they hear, a lizard feet, that's food, man. They got to go get that because they process their food fast, they live fast, and that's just the way, that's the nature of, the high metabolism type animals.
Yeah, I can attest to that with the Barons racers. I don't know if you've seen any of those, Mike. I got a couple of them, but I literally have a video of one of my Barons racers. He's in his enclosure, and the monitor's outside of the enclosure. He's out just roaming the room, but he's on the outside of the glass, and the Baron's on the inside of the glass, and they're like a freaking mirror to each other's movement, and their tongues are flicking at the same rate. That's why I've told Smitty before, I put Barons racers mind level of intelligence almost up there with some of the monitors, because they're just so tacked on to every movement and everything that's going on. It's pretty crazy, some of the colubrids, man. It blows my mind.
And I kind of really, I dig that. I mean, I don't get me wrong, I'm a boa guy too. I got emeralds, I got rainbows, and I love them, but they're just a whole, you know what? And I'm not saying that they're easy, because I mean, they all take work, but any animal that you could feed once a week compared to feeding every day, cleaning shit water every day, man, that's a nice break to have an animal that doesn't need that type of attention.
Yeah,
100%. Yeah, you see, I got that pattern mixed up, because it's like you have that boid python every other week kind of schedule, and then you have that colubrid every couple days schedule, and then you have that monitor basically every day schedule. Well, I somehow tried to shuffle all that together. Now I got a damn 24/7 job on top of the damn job.
Yeah.
But we're living life, brothers, so it's all good. I can't complain.
Yeah, and that's why, like last week. Sorry, by the way, I don't know. I guess my phone charger came unplugged here, and my phone died. And that goes into what Justin and I were talking about last week. Of like, it makes your life a little easier when you get into like a niche. Like you get what you do. And like it's just a little easier, if you focus on 1-2 things, you kind of hone in. But like once you get into that, you have a bunch of different stuff, everything needs something different. It's hard to maintain. I couldn't imagine my life with monitors right now, and I'm just maintaining colubrids and pythons. Like if I added monitors in the mix, it would be nonstop.
That's why the monitors and stuff that I do want, it's the smaller stuff, and it's like Ackies and Kims are pretty much it. Like that's all I really have any interest in. Maybe Pilbarensis, but that's
Pilbs, baby. We're doing Pilbs.
Not high on the list either. Like I know my limits.
They're all great, and I could tell you the reason I got rid of all of my Audatrias is because I was getting eggs every 2 or 3 months, hatchlings every 2 or 3 months. And it was just non-freaking
It's
stop.
freaking incredible. Like watching Lucas and his Ackies and all the Ackie babies he's raised, it's like how they can do that and not just be completely blown out within like 2 or 3 years is unbelievable.
Dude,
Well,
Luke
you know what?
here for a year and he's already produced 2 clutches. It makes no sense.
You know, here's the thing too. When you run your animals like that, as you guys all know, what any of these animals that are egg layers, they're born with the amount of eggs they're going to lay in their lifetime. So when you have an animal like, we'll use coming eye, for example. Well, they breed maybe a couple times a year. I literally get clutches every 3 months for year after year after year. So after I get a female breeding and she's bred like 3 years, man, I have to retire her. I cannot keep, because I love the animals too. I'm not, I'm not looking to make, I don't want a factory. I don't want nothing like that. I do this because I love the shit. And, when you put it into those terms, basically in like 3-year period, they've given me 7 or 8 years worth of eggs.
Mm-hmm.
So after 3 years, I like to retire them. My Mertens, same thing. I just retired my original Mertens. I just retired my original female coming eye. And so I'm going to have a little lull here while my holdbacks are coming into their own. They're actually starting to breed now, but so I need a little bit of a break too. But in the same breath, I've got 2 female sulfurs that are probably laying eggs right now. So when we get off this, I got to go see if they're still digging, if they're laying, what they're doing. But yeah, but you know what? I got to say, I don't really know how to turn my animals off.
I was gonna say, aside from just housing them individually.
Yeah, besides doing that, but you know what? Here's the thing, bro. If you're still running them the same way, but they're not being inseminated, you're still going to get the eggs. They're going to be infertile. So I figure if they're going to go through all of that reproductive stress, there might as well be a good outcome from it. So again, there's more than one way to skin a cat, and I'm not smart enough to stop them and start them, stop them and start them. I just keep them running.
It's just wild, the sustainability of it, especially with stuff like Ackies and Kims and stuff. It's crazy that they can do that. I mean, you almost look at too like false water cobras, Dr. Logan and all the amount of eggs that those things crank out on an annual basis is just unbelievable. The tricolor hawk, like same thing. It's like these things are literally meant to just pop out like mate, feed, kill, repeat. Just constant.
And then that brings up another question, especially with the false water cobras. With an animal at such a high reproductive rate, how many of those babies are actually making it to adulthood? So they're, along with all this stuff that we're talking about, we're still talking about nature. So, as much as we want to, in captivity, we want to produce them and sell them or whatever we do with them, donate them, I donate a lot of animals too. So, in the wild, can you imagine if like sea turtles, for example, they have how many babies come out of those nests, and maybe 3 of them.
I think statistically, it's only actually 1 that actually survives to like adulthood.
So basically, they're producing food for the cycle of life.
Yep.
Which is cool too.
That's what me and Phil say that on Snakes and Stogies all the time. It's like that's why Mom has 30. Like, they're not all meant to get there.
Hey, Mike. I had a question that I forgot to ask, but before we wrap this up, I wanted to ask this because you've dealt with so many the variety of monitors in your time. So from small species to medium species to big species, socializing wise, have you noticed that the bigger, larger size monitors, 4 to 6 foot and up, such as like water monitors and the coming eye and whatnot. Have you noticed their tolerability to us and their socializing a little bit easier than the smaller and medium sized monitors? Because in my personal experience and my personal thought is that the smaller and the medium sized monitors, not only are they more of a prey item to a lot more things and birds and everything, but it takes longer for them to get to the top of their food chain. So they're kind of prey for most of their life until they hit that peak size. So I was just, in your experience, do you think and do you feel like the bigger monitors or larger monitors come out with more of that apex confidence compared to the smaller and medium sized monitors?
You know what? It's funny that you bring that up, because before I started breeding my sulfurs, I would say no. I would say no. I mean, they all want to do the same thing. They all want to get into that predator mode and get out of that prey mode as fast as possible. So if you take that natural instinct or behavior or process that they go through and you keep them hot and you feed them, you're not going to make them fat. You know, if anything, when they're young like this, you really want to hit them hard with the Sticky Tongue Farm Mineral. That's what I use. So the vitamins and the minerals and the vitamin D3, that supports their skeletal growth. So as long as you're supporting their growth, they're going to get to that size where they're more confident and they're not prey anymore. But I got to say this, sulfur monitors. Now, I got my sulfur monitor group. They were all probably yearlings when my friend got them, and he had them for a year. And again, very social, very tractable animals. So I wasn't real sure on them. You know, I'm real familiar with most of the other ones, but I wasn't sure with the Bivitatis. So, my adults they're like puppy dogs. They all crawl on me. They're great. So I was the same question that you're talking about, Skylar. I was curious how the hatchlings were going to be. Finally, I hatched some, and man, I'm going to tell you something. They're either the stupidest motherfuckers, or I don't understand. The baby sulfur monitors are just as tame as my adults as babies.
I
They
feel like
literally
apex mindset. That's my only
They come
thing.
out bigger and there's less predation.
Well,
right off the bat.
I can't say this from personal experience, but I can tell you, I'm sure you guys know, I network like a jib jab son of a gun just because I like to talk to people. So I talk to people that have different species than I have all the time. And just from talking to people and watching different videos and everything, that is the only conclusion I can come to, is that those bigger apex species that are a top growth of like 5 feet and up, 5 to 7 feet, mainly water monitors, croc monitors, the Komodos, they come out of the egg with that apex instinct of knowing I'm going to be the big boy around town. No one's going to mess with me. I'm going to be able to eat you. So I don't really have much to worry about. And that's about it. It seems like that attitude.
Speaking on the sulfurs, I could tell you right now, my sulfurs are a month younger than my coming eye babies, and they've already doubled in size, where the coming eye are, so you might have a point there. I think they grow the sulfurs grow so fast that you might be onto something there about them maybe being more confident, knowing, but still in the wild, man, they make a mistake, they're on the end of a bird's bill and they're done,
Yeah. I understand that, because I talk to people too, and they say when they catch the wild ones, it's like even at mid-range or mid-age, sub-adult size, it's like catching, a damn Tasmanian devil. But it just seems like in a captive setting or a super social setting where maybe they're finding these monitors close to captivity or close to civilization, they're way more tolerant, and it seems like they have that apex confidence, at least. I mean, just from what I've seen, I can only go off of what I've seen and anecdotal
I'm
talk.
sure there's a degree of habituation too, like you would see with any alligators that get fed by people. They build an
Right.
association where it's like, oh hey, these people are gonna throw me pieces of bread and French fries and all that other crap.
It just seems like it.
It makes complete
Right,
sense
because I think maybe Smitty, you might be onto something there, because more so than with captive born, anyways, because that's all I can speak on. I'm sure babies in the wild are going to run from you. You're not even going to see them, but because the sulfurs grow so fast compared to like even my coming eye, that grow pretty quick, but these like double in a month's time. So I think maybe it is like a food habituation thing, to where they want to grow so bad that they're not going to be shy for a meal. They're going to come out, like you said, an alligator, people throwing meat to them and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They realize, this is how I'm going to grow big quick.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, Skylar, because that was actually a question I was going to ask like halfway through this episode, but I didn't. I wasn't able to interject, and I kind of forgot. But I feel like with stuff like Ackies and Kims, even as adult size, for big birds, they're still prey. To an extent, for some bigger birds. Granted, not everything. As babies,
like
everything.
Prey, raptors and stuff.
Yeah, but you got to understand something. If we're talking about wild caught Kims and Ackies and stuff, they have their own defense mechanisms. Sure, when you compare, whatever birds would predate them in the wild, Kimberly rock monitors, they're fitting in crevices that are so tiny. Like I think about around here, like we got ospreys. These are, a bird of prey.
Yeah, we have a bunch of them here.
But I actually watched an osprey one time. I was watching sparrows, and there had to be 15, 20 of them. They all flew into a bush at the same time. And I'm in my car parked, and I noticed all of a sudden the osprey comes into the picture. This motherfucker, he's literally running around the bush. He's going back and forth, and the sparrows would go from this side of the bush. He'd come around this way. He'd go that way, and he's trying to trick them. And when he did trick them, he'd trick them, and he'd throw his foot. He'd stand on one leg and throw a foot into the bush and pull out a sparrow with his foot, put it in its mouth, and fly away. Then all the other sparrows would go away. And so, yeah, their hunting techniques are different, but, Kimberly rock, when you look at their skull, even an adult, their skull is so flat.
Like they're made of paper.
Yeah, and they go in little crevices, and not only are they running from being predated like that, but they're also getting little geckos and skinks that are living in these crevices. So it's a good strategy for them. That's why I think they're so bold, because they have, they're living in a perfect habitat for them to escape.
Right. Yeah, but I feel like that could also play into why, like in some scenarios, they can almost be a little harder to be, and like in those, I'm not even going to say harder, in those open scenarios, because Kimberleys and Ackies, they're staying in those tight crevices, and they're always nearby a tight crevice.
Right.
So around, they can dart, but if you have them out in the open, they're like, oh fuck, like this isn't good.
Yeah, they're exposed.
Because now I'm vulnerable. I'm small. Like, granted, I'm not a baby, but I'm still small for those big birds.
Right.
Out in the open, it can be somewhat kind of harder to like kind of grasp the fact that I'm safe.
Absolutely.
It is interesting though, because there's like 2 flat rocks on the hotter side of the enclosure that they're in now. And there's like one of those rocks. It's not very big. I'd say it's probably like 7 inches in diameter, give or take. And it's just laying there on the dirt, and that's like their spot. They love to hang out under that. And some of the spaces I've seen them wedge themselves in is ridiculous. Like, I'm like, how do you even breathe? Like, there's no space there, but they somehow managed to find it and hang out in there.
Well,
Yeah.
you know,
They're completely content with it. Like they're completely happy. They freaking love it.
you know, if you ever seen like Chuck Wallas and stuff too, when they get into a crevice, man, they just start gulping air.
Oh, fuck.
Mhm.
And they wedge themselves in there, boy. And you know, they'd much rather lose a leg than
Yeah.
to let out the air and come out. You know what I mean? That's how dedicated they are to their survival.
Yeah.
It's nuts. Kims are on the list though.
Yep,
They
they're
do
cool,
like-
man. They're real cool.
Dude, I literally have a 6-foot enclosure in my spare garage right now. It's a glass front and opening enclosure. I have all the foam molds and all the caves and everything cut out, all the platforms cut out. All I need to do is put either some Zoopoxy or some freaking sealant over this thing and get it finished. But I already have an enclosure ready for some pills. That was the next monitor venture, but I was kind of just like, you know what, I need to tackle these peach throats and accomplish this before
Let me give you a little advice. If you do that with the Pilbaras or Kimberly Rocks or Ackies or anything, use the Zoopoxy, because
you're kind of the reason why I want to use the Zoopoxy.
you know, I'm telling you, it is such a great product. Because like when you use Drylock or grout and you put it over styrofoam, these are digging animals. So they're going to start with one little grain of sand. They're going to pop that grain of sand. They're going to fuck around. They're going to do everything. They're going to come back. Boom. They're going to get another grain of sand. A little bit. They will eventually dig through the grout. When they get into the styrofoam, man, it's game over because they just tear that shit apart. My friend Steve Sandin, who's another really skilled monitor keeper, he made the grout before we discovered the Zoopoxy. He made a grout, nice background for an Ackie, and he thought it escaped. And, you know, for months and months, he thought it escaped. And then he was listening, and he could hear something clawing like behind the rockscape that he made. And he removed all the substrate, and it had dug a little hole into the grout. And then it slowly but surely, it dug out all the styrofoam, and it was living behind the rock feature.
And loving every minute of it.
And loving every minute of it because he was safe as shit back there.
I believe it. I'll have to get a couple kits of Zoopoxy off you then so I can finish this enclosure up.
Well, you know what? I don't sell it no more because it's an hour away from my house. So it's a 2-hour drive for me to come and get it. And I got to make a little bit of money. And I really wasn't making much, but the shipping cost and everything, that kind of deters a lot of people because it's heavy. But then some woman was asking me about, you know, selling her a Zoopoxy kit, and I told her the price, and she goes, well, why would I buy that from you? And I'm like, well, because you called me for that, right?
Zoopoxy, right?
Yeah, this is the Zoopoxy. Well, what happened was, and I'm real close with Tabitha over at Zoopoxy. Real nice lady. She can answer all your questions. They had opened a store. See, when I first started with them, you had to buy a $1,500 purchase. So generally, most people aren't going to do that. So I would buy a $1,500 purchase, and then I'd sell what I didn't use or need. And that's how I started selling it. Then this lady says to me, she goes, why would I pay you for that? And I'm like, well, because that's how you're going to get it. She goes, well, I'll just order it from Zoopoxy. I'm like, you can't, you know, you're going to, unless you want to buy $1,500 worth. She goes, oh, that's not what they say on their store. So I'm like, what? My wife goes and checks. They opened a store, like, what do they call that? An internet store or whatever.
An online store.
Yeah, an online store. So now they're no longer, you could buy a pint kit from them. You could buy a 10-gallon kit from them. You could buy a gallon kit. So before it wasn't like that. Before I started distributing it, so to speak, you had to buy a minimum purchase because they're selling it to zoos and exhibits, and you know, they're selling it by the 55-gallon drum. So
yeah,
it just wasn't
slices when you can sell the whole pie.
Yeah. So, but anyways, now that I'm on that, I know we're getting long here. Anybody interested in Zoopoxy, Skylar, you could go to Facebook. We started a group, me and Steve. It's called Polygem Vivarium Construction. You can go there, join the page. There's a lot of great artists, great ideas, painting techniques for it to make it look really naturalistic, sculpting techniques. So go there and check that out. There's Tabitha's there to answer questions. Me and Steve are there, and you know, you can get most of your questions answered there on how to use the product and whatnot. I do have a YouTube video up, a little tutorial on how to, you know, mix it and mold it.
Cool.
Definitely get on it.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, we are hitting that 2.5 hour
We
mark.
are.
So,
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to go so long.
No, not at all, man.
not at all. It's not a problem in the slightest. This has been a banger of an episode. And I can't wait to get it out and get the feedback on it.
Yeah.
So
It's a lot of fun, man. It was a pleasure talking with all you guys. Thank you for the invite. Skylar, great to talk to you. And like I say, away from this, anybody listening, anybody, you got any questions about monitors, I'm always happy to help. I just, you know, I hope people, you know, have an open mind and listen to a little criticism. It's you know, it's I take it very serious. I would like people, and I don't want to give people advice and then they go and do what they want to do anyways. I don't want to waste my time like that.
That's
And
not
I know
people looking for
Skylar,
advice. That's people looking for justification at that point.
Yeah.
Well,
if people do want to hit y'all up, what's the best place to do that, and what's your handle on said place?
Go ahead, Skylar.
You guys know I'm kind of low key, so I only got Instagram. If you want to hit me up, you can DM me, Hale_the_scales. We can talk. I don't know anything but peach throats. So if you hit me up, we'll talk some peach throats, some Papuans, some other colubrids. If you really want to talk to the man about monitors, you talk to the other guy.
There you go. It's reversed.
Yeah. You talk to Mike because Mike's monitors knows what's up. He's literally he's indirectly and directly taught me so much stuff between me asking him questions and me watching his videos. If you guys wanted to learn anything about monitors, watch his videos, hit him up. He will teach you everything you need to know. And thank you guys again for bringing me on here. You know, you guys know I appreciate you boys more than anything. And Mike, I appreciate you more than you know, even though I'm just another dude on Instagram that messages you.
You're a bright kid, man, and you're smart, and you know you know you're way ahead of the game. So for me, I guess you can find me Mike's Monitors on Facebook, Mike's Monitors on Instagram, Mike's Monitors on YouTube, mikesmonitors.com. Yeah, hit me up on any of them socials, and always glad to help. Thanks for having me on this. Like I say, I've seen you guys. I know Bill Bradley. He's a real good guy. And like I said, man, I thought I was following you, but I'm a dummy with this internet shit. So now that I figured it out, I will watch all your episodes and I'll stay tuned. And I really appreciate you guys having me on.
We appreciate you, man.
Mike, you'll be seeing a follow from me soon. So when you see Longleaf Reptilia, that's me.
All right.
Yeah, I've been waiting for a long time to talk to you on a FaceTime or see you. I'm going to be at Tinley next year, so I'm going to see you face to face next year, man. I'm going to have a shirt. You got to send me your shirt size. I'm going to have a shirt and some stickers ready for you, man, because I've been waiting.
Absolutely.
I'm going to have the sleeves cut off, so don't worry. There's
you got to do the neck too, though. You got to do the neckline too.
I'll fucking do the neckline, the sleeves, everything. I'm coming correct when I come. I don't fucking
custom tailored.
For Mike's Monitors, baby.
That's right.
Well, this episode was brought to you by BlackBoxCages.com. Check them out. Facebook, Instagram. Get a cage for your monitor. Get some Zoopoxy. Deck it out. Make it look right. Yeah. I was going to with mine, but I'm too lazy. So check them out. And then SteveSnaketuary.com. Get some Venom hot sauce. Cottonmouth sauce is where it's at. We will be back for Snakes and Stogies on Monday. And Corn Stars next week. It was supposed to be this week, but Chris got invited to be on Colubered and Coluboid Radio. So I told him, I was like, all right, I think that warrants a punt.
You get a pat.
So, yeah. So thank you, everybody. We'll see you
Hey,
later.
one more quick thing. You guys here, I don't really know the social media, how to just come and like me or whatever, and I'll know who you are, and we'll be friends then, or whatever it is.
Cool.
Cool, man.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you. God bless, and have a good night.
Thanks,
Thank
Mike.
you, man. Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Skylar.
See you guys. Love you, man.
Love you, bro.